Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on YuStudio. I'm Rachel Nicastro, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at MusicFirst. And I am very excited to talk about YuStudio today, which is a browser-based digital audio workstation, and it's made with the beginner musician in mind. It's got some really great features, including the ability to import video files for scoring. There's a lot to cover, so I am thrilled to have the creator of YuStudio himself, Max Wheeler, with me today.
Hello.
Max is an accomplished composer, producer, DJ, and the head of technology at Charanga. He's going to give us a tour of YuStudio, answer your questions, and he's going to share his insights as a music educator. Today's webinar is being live streamed on our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and on our LinkedIn account. So a recording is going to be available as soon as this live stream is over on all of those platforms. If you have any questions for Max during the webinar, go ahead and drop them in the comments. We'll pop them up on the screen and get them answered for you. Max, it is great to have you here today.
Yeah.
So I will let you take it from here.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me. And yeah, it's really exciting to be able to share this. Yeah, just really excited to be here. And yeah, hopefully everyone's going to get something out of it. And yeah, we were just sort of talking beforehand about, kind of what's unique about YuStudio and what we've done with the development of YuStudio. And hopefully what you're going to see today is that what I think is really new with what we've done is we've built a DAW specifically for education. So I don't think you'll see this anywhere else. And I think what that means is this is something that's actually really easy to use. And we're working with, so we work with over 10,000 schools in the UK and around the world already. And the reports we're getting back from elementary teachers over here in the UK and around the world about using YuStudio is that they're actually finding it's really engaging, large numbers of students. And they're finding it's really kind of quite revolutionary with that age group in terms of getting them to do something creative, get them making their own tracks, and actually working at home outside of school as well, which is something that a lot of them are really excited about. So if I'll fire up YuStudio so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So here is the homepage for MusicFirst Elementary. Some of you might have seen that. Obviously, you can get a free trial if you want to check it out and sort of have a look at some of the things we're talking about. What I'm going to do is just dive straight into this section here, creative tools. If I load this up, you can see there's a range of different tools, but the one we're going to focus on is YuStudio, which is just here. So I'll load it up, and you can see there are some tutorial videos here, which obviously are a great place to start in terms of getting you up and running, kind of getting an overview of some of the features and things. But I thought as I'm here today, we might as well just kind of do it live, and I can walk you through some of the features. So one feature you can see, I was just working on a little beat, and it's actually loaded up my beat that I was working on helpfully for me, which obviously if you're working with a group, you're teaching, if they can log in and carry on with what they've been doing, that's really great. But for the purposes of today, I'm going to start a brand new project, and we'll get this full screen like that. Now, there's a couple of features which you might not think of them necessarily as revolutionary, but the things that we're finding are having the biggest impact are some of the most simple things. So one of them, and this is something that I'm actually really proud about, it's just the simple fact that we've labeled the buttons at the top that control the software. So the fact that the play button has the word play on it and the stop button has the word stop on it, that's actually quite a big decision. And what it is that we thought, because we're making a piece of software specifically for educators, specifically for use with young people in schools, we wanted to make sure that it was really easy for them to use. They're our top priority. Educators are our top priority. Students, young people, that's really what we care about most here at Charanga, at YuStudio. And what we realized was most of the software that was out there is designed with the kind of professional producer in mind, with the bedroom DJ, bedroom producer, mostly kind of young adults. And it's all designed to kind of look flashy, look cool, but it's not really designed to be easy to use. And so things like labeling the buttons, some software developers might decide not to do that because they think it makes it look less professional or, less high end. But what I found was, especially if you're working with a group of students in a classroom, having to explain every single time someone wants to click on a button what that button does is going to completely disrupt your ability to actually teach anything in that session. So we found just by simple things like adding those words onto the buttons, it freed up a teacher to actually get into creating their own piece of music, and do what you're there to do, which is kind of share ideas and get creative. Another really cool thing, if I start out by building a little drum beat, we're going to click on new track, select drum, click that to load up our track, and then I'm going to double click here to create a note clip. And if I double click again to open this up, you can see another one of our revolutionary features is we've actually labeled the beats in the bar. So you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 labeled there. And again, with a lot of professional software that people have been using in schools, you'll find that the software will say something like 1.00793845, because if you're Hans Zimmer doing the latest Avengers soundtrack in Hollywood, well, you need to know to the nearest nanosecond where Thor's Thunderbolt goes. But if you're actually trying to teach a group of students in an elementary school to make their first ever piece of music, it's really useful to actually be able to say, well, look, this is where to put the snare drum, this is where to put the hi-hats. So we found just by labeling these beats, labeling the names of the drums, suddenly it enables students to actually start creating music at a much younger age. So say, for example, as we're kind of talking to you guys in the US, let's start with a hip hop beat, one of my favorite places to start. So we're going to change the tempo. I'm going to go for a kind of classic, let's go 90s New York hip hop beat. So we want to change the tempo. We're going to click minus here to lower the tempo down to about 90 beats per minute. Again, tempo, beats per minute, all labeled really clearly. Nice big writing so everyone can actually see what it is that they're learning. Again, that's because that's crucial to us. The learning things like tempo, like beats, that's what we're trying to do here. So hiding that away or not labeling things clearly kind of undermines that. So we thought, let's really lean into this. If I close that down, we're going to add a kick drum on beats 1 and beats 3. And what I thought was, anyone who wants to have a go at creating your own hip hop beat, sometimes I get people to participate and have a go in the session. But what I thought with this is, as Rachel said at the start, you can always watch this video back when it's finished. So if you want to have a go at this, you can always get your free trial, log in, and follow these steps along. And obviously there's lots of resources on there as well. But if we add kick drum on beat 1 and 3, let's add a snare drum on beats 2 and 4, and then we're going to add some hi-hats all the way through, something like this. What we've been finding is, if we create something like that, really quickly, we're creating something that sounds quite cool, quite kind of, like an actual hip-hop beat. But what I found is really interesting is, if I play this to a group, I'll say, what's the issue here? What do we need to do next? And they'll say, oh, well, it's not going round and round. And so I'll be able to say, okay, well, can you click on loop? And instead of having to say the one with the squiggly symbol, they'll just see, oh, there's the word loop. Click on that. You can see it's automatically looping up the section we want to listen to. Now, what I like to do with this, one of my favorite little activities, if you've got a smart board or a whiteboard in your classroom, you can get students to come up and say, try adding an extra kick drum anywhere you want in this beat and see how it sounds. Try adding some extra hi-hats anywhere you want in the beat and see how it sounds. And I find, because the software is so easy to use, you can actually get students to experiment with some of those sounds, with some of the beat patterns, and start to get really creative with it. And I found that's the point where they suddenly realize, oh wow, I can actually really do this. This is something I can do. So let's add one good little trick. This is a good trick for teachers. If you add a kick drum just before one of the snares or just after one of the snares, that instantly gives you more of a kind of hip hop sound. So yeah, have a listen to this. So straight away, as soon as I do that with a group, you can sort of see people's eyes light up a little bit and think, oh yeah, this does sound like hip hop. Another good little trick, let's move one of these up to the open hi-hat sound. If you do that at the end of the pattern. Love that. And so this is the kind of thing that I'd maybe be doing with one of my first lessons with a group, just to get them involved, get them started. Obviously, they could be logging in on their own devices and creating their own beats. So I was out in Atlanta at the GAETC conference recently, and we were talking to lots of teachers using Chromebooks who had students logging in on Chromebooks, creating their own beats. It might be that you're working in pairs, in groups. Over here in the UK, we've got teachers using tablets, iPads. The whole point with this is it will work on all kinds of different devices. It's designed to work really well, even if you've got older machines, less powerful computers. So lots of flexibility in how you use it, even where within the school you use it. So it might be, instead of in a music classroom, if you've got access to a technology classroom with lots of PCs, it might be that you could deliver a music session from, from different places within the school. So the idea with this is that it's really flexible, and that means that you can, really get the most out of whatever kind of setup or equipment you've got access to in your school. Now we've created this little beat, I want to show you one of my next features, which I think really starts to kind of engage lots of young people and really give them the tools to create something that musically sounds really good. So if we close that down, we've created our loop. The next thing I want to do is show you how we would start to add some layers to that in terms of melody and harmony, and starting to build up something that sounds great. So we've got this instrument here, the sound bank. What's great with this, if we create another clip, is that this gives you access to basically pretty much any instrumental sound you want. So we've got all the different orchestral instruments, loads of different synthesizers, guitars, keys, bass, brass, all of the different sort of sounds you might want. I'm going to start, I like a electric piano sound, so I'm going to go for one of those, but you can really get into choosing whatever sounds you feel like using. But one issue I found, especially at elementary age, was that if you've got students who don't already know too much music theory, sometimes they can get quite kind of anxious or uncertain when presented with the idea of creating a melody or a bass line or a chord progression. And what we've done to really make this easy and accessible is we've added this feature, the key highlighting. So if we say choose the key of C minor, what you'll see now is we've got these dots on the keyboard over here. So the red dot is our root note or our home note, and then the blue dots show us the other notes in that key. And what this means is, just by clicking on those highlighted dots, we can actually get students creating a melody in a key. So if I just stick some of these in, I'm going to just turn that down a little bit because it's quite loud. You can see these sliders here mean we can access the volume, the loudness of each track. So if I add a few more notes, so all I'm doing is just looking at these blue dots. And what I quite often advise students, and hopefully you'll find this will work really well with the elementary age group, is if you start on the red dot, use some of the blue dots, and then come back to the red dot again by the end, that usually gives you quite a nice starting point for a melody. So if I give that a play. I think that kind of works. And another little trick, which is really useful, lots of teachers are enjoying. Say if we want to take these notes that we've added, but we want to change where they occur on the keyboard, we've actually got this octave button here, so we can transpose them. Now you can see we've moved them down here. Let's have a listen to that. In fact, let's go one more octave down. Maybe we'll turn this into a bass line. That's what I like with this, is we can kind of play around. And what's great with this is if we say now add another layer, so add another sound bank and another clip, I'm going to look at my instruments here and think, okay, maybe I want to add a synth sound to this. So let's add, what am I going to add? Let's add a synth lead. Now we've got the same key highlighted. So if we want to add a melody, all we're doing is using those same dots, and we're going to end up with something that fits in key with the bass line we've just created. And what I'm finding with this that's been quite revolutionary for the way I teach is that it means even students who haven't really encountered music theory yet, haven't internalized those scales and keys, are able to create a piece of music which is in a key. And that is opening this up, to younger students than would previously have been able to do this type of activity, but also to some of the students who are a bit less confident with music, which means hopefully it's more inclusive and you're able to engage a bigger group of students and have more people taking part, which obviously is great. You've got all the kind of things you'd usually expect from music software. So one I really like is these effects. So if we click here on effects, we can add all kinds of different effects. The delay is quite fun. Let's have a listen how that sounds. You can hear that in my headphones here. It sounds great. You can hear that the sound, the quality of the sounds is really great as well, which obviously for students, is important. It's a big deal. Now, I'm going to show you something now, which gets lots and lots of students really excited. If we click on the sounds tab, and go here to audio. And if it might be one of those things that's worth mentioning, if you don't know the difference between audio and MIDI, this is something that's really kind of useful thing to be teaching in elementary. Essentially, audio is just any sound recorded from the real world. And MIDI are electronic sounds that you've kind of triggered using the computer. So we've got these MIDI instruments that we've been using so far to build the track. And what we're going to do now is layer some audio, so some recorded real world sounds on the top. We've got all these artist packs, so loads of cool samples and sounds created by some really exciting new producers, including some from myself. Quite fun that I got to be featured on there. And one thing that's worth pointing out here, 50% of our artist packs here are from female and non-binary producers, and we thought that was really important that female producers were represented in the content within the software, because it's a big issue that's really close to our hearts here at Charanga, at YuStudio, is making sure that students, that teachers, educators, everybody knows that this is not just something that's for young men, it's not for boys, it's for everybody. And we thought if young female producers using YuStudio are seeing female producers represented in the artist packs, that's going to mean that they know that they're represented, and they can see themselves in the software. And I think that's a really important point. Also, Snarl, this EDM and dubstep pack here, he's actually one of our former students who took part in some competitions we did, ended up getting some music signed and releasing music with record labels like Sony, and he's actually created a sample pack which is featured. And the point with that is just to show the young people using it, the students, actually there's a progression route for them where they could actually create some music, enter the music industry, and potentially actually end up featured in YuStudio as well. So it's kind of nice to have that in there. What I wanted to show you though is one really fun thing. If we come down here to acapella and vocal, you can see we've got all these different acapellas that we can then load up and hear over the top of our track. So one thing that's really fun is if we want to add a vocal to this, we can just choose one. Let's go for, because I'm coming from the UK, I'll show you some grime. I always love to add a bit of grime rap to this. So this is a kind of UK rap style. Now I've just dragged and dropped this rap here, and if we now listen back to our track, we've now got a professional rapper on top of my track. So I'm just going to duplicate this and make the track a bit longer, and show you how that sounds. Now, what's really fun about this is that as soon as students hear a rapper on their track, they suddenly realize, oh wow, I could actually be a producer. We've got some US acapellas in there, so there's some American sounds as well for them to check out. But for me, this is one of the features where young people get really excited, realizing that they can actually, add vocals. And we've got things like electro, funk, EDM, disco, 80s hip hop, all kinds of different styles of vocals that they can add to their track and experiment with. And we're finding this is the kind of thing that was really difficult with traditional software, with software that you had to install on a computer. But because this is all in the cloud, in the browser, it means that students can access this really easily. It's really easy for teachers. And so loads and loads of people are using this and having loads of fun. And another thing, which on the kind of similar note, is the fact we've actually got video. As Rachel mentioned at the start, you can actually load up a video here and compose along to the picture, which means you could do projects to do film music, projects to do music for video games. And this has been really popular with lots of teachers. I was talking to some teachers today who've been doing projects where they're getting students to compose to a video. So just so you can see what it looks like, I'll play this. So it's pretty cool that you can create music to a piece of video in the cloud, in a DAW that students can log into at home as well. And another thing that teachers have been really loving when I've been showing this and doing training is that the fact you can actually add your own video clips as well. So say if there's a video that you would love your students to create some music to, you can actually import a video file, share that with your group. They can go away and compose some music to it. And that means you can do all kinds of projects, which, really opens up loads of kind of exciting possibilities. Now, there's loads more features here in terms of different sounds. So I'll quickly show you. You've got synthesizers where you can kind of create electronic sounds and design sounds. I think this is one thing actually it's worth showing you in terms of the sort of the philosophy, the design, and the way we've gone about things. So if we load up this synth, you can see we've got 4 controls here that we can tweak. So you can use these to tweak and manipulate the sound. But what's nice is we've got this advanced button here, and if you click on the advanced button, you can see we've actually got a really powerful synthesizer with all of these features, which means you can do some really high level work, you know, all the way up to kind of high school and beyond. But what we've done is we've put that behind this advanced button, because we realize if you're using this in an elementary school, seeing all of those features might actually be quite intimidating for some students who are using this for the first time. So our philosophy is always to start with things really simple, really accessible and easy to use, but also just to let educators know these powerful features are there if you want them. You can do some really impressive stuff, but we're not going to kind of make it so that's the first thing you see when you load it, because we know from working with students and educating, working with educators for a long time, if you actually have too many features that overwhelm you when you first load the program, that can actually be a real issue, especially in elementary with some of the age groups that you're going to be working with. So that's kind of good to show you some of the philosophy behind how we've laid things out. Also, you've got the score here. It's a really popular feature with lots of teachers, so you can actually use the musical score to input notes. So that obviously gives you a whole different set of options in terms of how you create tracks, and opens up some different possibilities, which, you know, for me is great to have that included in there, and is something which lots and lots of people are using, to compose music. Another thing, while we're kind of going through the features, in terms of recording, let me show you how easy it is to record using YuStudio. So all I'm going to do, hit record and play. Check, 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 check. So there we go. That's me recorded there. If I just mute the rap. Check, 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 check. That's just me recording with my built-in microphone. And check, 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 check. You can see what's quite revolutionary here is using a Chromebook, using a tablet. All you need is a cheap pair of headphones, and effectively you've got a recording studio. So what I've been saying to educators all over the world is you don't need to spend loads of money on an audio interface, on an expensive condenser microphone. You don't need to buy loads of equipment. All you need is a device with a built-in microphone, a pair of cheap headphones, and you can go away and make a whole record, you know, make tracks, and you can get things sounding really, really professional, just by using the basic tools that you've got on your basic devices. So that's a message that I wanted to really get out there, that actually you can use this to record. Say if you're working with young instrumentalists who play an instrument, then I think that's something which is totally doable with this. And it's something that I think really opens up a whole world of possibilities in terms of recording school bands or recording young musicians, and kind of creating tracks that way. Now I'm just looking at the chat here. It says we've got a question from Jason up on the screen. Let me see. The audio automatically time stretches to the session tempo. Yeah, so all of the loops that are included there will automatically stretch to the tempo of the software. And we made that decision because we basically realized that lots of software out there has kind of features that make it quite complicated, and you have to kind of decide, do you want this to match this? And what we wanted was something that was really easy to use and really accessible, and we thought this was the easiest way to do that. And we found so far actually the feedback's been really good in that you can just drag and drop, and things will match up, and you'll get results that sound really, sound really professional really easily. There are, again, lots of quite powerful features in terms of editing audio and the things you can do. We've got a couple of features coming soon which are going to expand that even further. But again, most of our decisions when we've been building YuStudio have been based around how do we make this easy to use specifically for that elementary age group. But yes, that's a great question. And yeah, any more questions that people have got, stick those in the chat and I'll be happy to answer them. Can you save the video as a new video file with the new music you've added? Yes. So let me just show you that quickly. So say if we've created this track here, we've got our video loaded up. All you then need to do is export that. And you've got all these different options in terms of what you want to export, including exporting a video. So And I'm not sure if you guys know the educator Amy Burns. She's been making some brilliant videos about MusicFirst Elementary, and the one that I just saw today where she'd created kind of a festive video of a snowball rolling down a hill. Those kind of projects, what's great is I think, say if you've got a performance in the school or you've got something coming up, you can create your own videos with your music, and then those could be shown on a screen if you've got a performance or a celebration event. And we're finding that's really, really popular. Lots and lots of teachers I've been noticing have been doing stuff around computer games, video games. So say taking a clip from a game that's really popular, adding music to that, adding sound effects to that. One thing that I've been finding I really enjoy is we've got this great library in here. If you go to the audio, if we come down here, we've got this great library of sound effects. And these are actually quite sort of high-end Hollywood sound effects, basically. But so some of these, say if we take some of these cool underwater sounds, I'll just show you one of these. So in fact, I'm just going to start a new project so I can show you this. So I'm going to save my work here. This is another thing. So here we go, max demo track. I'm going to hit save, and that's saved to my account in the cloud. What's really nice is teachers have the option of turning on autosave, because we thought some teachers might want to make templates, might not automatically want to save all their work. But, and this is good news for educators, all of your students' work will automatically save all the time. So it's very, very difficult for them to lose any of their work that they're creating, because it's automatically saving all the time. Works in a very similar way to like a Google Doc if you use those. But if I just load up a new project, one thing that I've been finding really fun is if we say, let's create an audio track, I'm going to grab some of those underwater sounds. So let's grab some underwater bubbles. That sounds quite fun. So I've got those. Oh, here we go. Let's have some whales talking. That sounds quite fun as well. So we've got some whale sounds. And then if we then go to the video, we could load up, here we go, the Ocean Zone video. You can kind of create an ocean themed piece of music. There we go. Let's maybe find some more. Here we go, watery. Let's have one of those down here as well. And, you know, there's a really simple activity which could be done, you know, maybe as a way to introduce the program, say, right, we're going to choose this ocean video and I want you to add some sounds that fit with that. It's a really fun way to bring in the idea of, oh, okay, we're using sounds, we're manipulating audio and creating something, but combining that with the visual shows you the power of what you can do with the platform. And another thing that I then like to do with groups with this is then say, right, we're now going to add some musical features to this. So maybe we're going to use the scale highlighting. And I was kind of thinking, right, well, let's choose the key that we're going to work in. So I think I was with my group said we're going to choose A minor. So everyone's going to write something in A minor, and we're going to choose an instrument from the sound bank that we think goes with this kind of underwater theme. I think I maybe use a grand piano actually. But you could then say, right, we're going to create maybe an arpeggio that fits with that theme. And you can then do things like adding effects to create different kinds of sounds. So let's add a reverb. You know, you can start to look at adding musical features that fit with the theme of the video. And what's maybe worth showing you actually is now that we've kind of created something like this. So let's say this is our, I'm going to call this my underwater video project. So if I save that, make sure I've got that saved to my account. If I now go back to my workspace, now my workspace here is where you're going to access everything as a teacher that you need to use all the kind of the student teacher facing stuff. If we go to my resources, I'm going to then see that basically all of the work that I've been working on will be here. So here's my underwater video project. I can add that to a lesson. So I'm going to create a new lesson called Underwater. And then if I if I then go to my lessons, I can see, right, here is my underwater lesson, and I can add that to any group I like. So let's say I'm going to add this to my test group. Then what's great is that then when those students log in, they're going to actually see that assignment of the underwater project as soon as they log in, and they can create their own version of that. They can change the music, they can add different features. And then as a teacher, what I really love with this is if I then go to my student groups, I can actually click on the group and then see, okay, here's my student, and I can actually click on the students to see how much time they've spent on the program, see all the music they've created, and it means that you can actually really easily evidence their progress and engagement. And one thing that was really nice with this, so I was doing some training this week for some schools out here in the UK, and I met some teachers who had been using the program. They'd been running a project with it for about 6 months, and they just kind of basically started using the tutorial videos to teach themselves how it worked. They'd started doing a project with the students, and what was really nice is when they then logged into the workspace to look at the students, they found one of their students had spent 24 hours at home creating his own beats. And what was really nice is they said that in terms of how much time they'd spent with the student, it was maybe 5 or 6 hours. So this student had gone home and spent an extra 20 hours of his own time creating beats. And so they then got an email from the parents at home saying, you know, how great it was that he'd been engaged with creating music outside of school. And that was a really big, big deal for them. But what was nice is they were actually able to evidence that and see that happening. And so educators are telling us that what's great with those tools is it's a way for them to see which students are engaging, which students aren't engaging. You know, maybe if you want to find one of the students and celebrate some of their work, well, you can look and see, oh, who's been working on their music this week? And that's something, again, which you can't do with traditional software. You can't do that with GarageBand on an iPad, for example, because you're going to have to look physically at each individual iPad to see what they've been doing and then figure out how to download it and then email it to yourself or all that kind of stuff. Whereas with this, from your teacher workspace, you can see all of your students, all of their work, how much time they've spent, listen to the music. And what I like to do with that is actually just at the end of a lesson, click on the workspace, click on the group, click on the student and share some of their music with the rest of the group, which is a really nice experience for them to be able to get that feedback from the other students, the other young people, and sort of have a nice sharing at the end of the session. So I find that doing that is something that I really love to do with a group, and it's just a really nice way to end a lesson, basically. So so I think hopefully what we've been doing here kind of gives you a good overview of some of the stuff you can do, some of the features. I was going to say, if there's anyone here who's got any questions or anything that they wanted to kind of ask about the program or how it works, I'm very happy to kind of take any questions or kind of see if there's any feedback or things like that.
All right. That was awesome, Max. Thank you so much for answering our questions and for showing us around YuStudio. If anybody has any additional questions, pop them in the chat and we'll get them answered. But if you're looking for a free 30-day trial of YuStudio, we've got a link down in the description. You can also visit musicfirst.com/elementary. So I'm popping that up on the screen for you, and that will get you a free trial to both MusicFirst Elementary as well as YuStudio and other creative tools. Well, thank you for joining us, and have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me, and really looking forward to hearing how everyone gets on. So hopefully we'll be hearing some music from some of you, and if you do share anything, share it with the hashtag YuStudio, because I'll personally be checking for that and listening to some of the tracks that everyone's making out there. So yeah, that would be great.
All right, thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye.